All right, so we got 220 pounds of steel. I named this 220-pound weight George. Georgie, George for short. 3, 2, 1. 4,000 pounds was generated in 4 feet. That's like getting hit by a semi-truck. Last thing I want to talk with you guys about is rescue. Things can happen so fast. All right. Trust me, this don't feel too good. We have these things called suspension trauma straps. Now I got a basket, okay? I'm gonna step right into that basket, and it's gonna pull my harness completely down. I can stay here suspended longer waiting for George to get back from lunch.
The Raiders, united with a team of tireless leaders from Nevada, are creating an ultra-modern, permanent stadium for the Raider Nation to call home. These are the stories of the people and the project, told from the ground up. Communication. It's a funny word, something we don't necessarily think about. But these 5 little syllables impact every moment of our lives. Though we may not be consciously focused on it, there are so many ways we communicate our thoughts, our ideas, our desires. For the Stadium Project, communication is without a doubt the most important skill that everyone involved needs to get right.
Communication is so important on a project like this because if you look at how many steps there are between the decision makers and the men and women that are responsible for putting the work in place, one wrong repeat of that command, so to speak, you know, it causes chaos and things just get turned upside down and something doesn't execute and then we miss on hitting somebody's expectations.
You know, people talk about a project like this and say how important communication is, and it almost becomes just kind of a worn-out slogan. But it becomes a worn-out slogan because it's really true. Being able to effectively communicate the owner's priorities, communicate the budget, communicate the quality requirements, communicate the design, all these various elements of a successful project, and be able to communicate those all the way down to the field.
At its most basic level, communication begins with signs. Whether sharing information, showing direction, or giving warning, signs in all shapes and sizes are all over the site.
We have signs all over the project site. They're everywhere. You really can't be in one part of the job and not be able to see one. And that's just a huge reminder to anybody who's either coming out on our project site just to visit and go on a tour, a craft worker to provide for their families and put work in place. Or maybe if it's even the owner of the Raiders, that safety is absolutely a value of ours, and it's very large, it's visible, and it's that visible reminder to everyone who enters our project.
Signals, whether audible or nonverbal, are another basic form of communication. The right signal can convey an urgent message quickly. Of course, the most ubiquitous form of communication on a construction site has to be plain old conversation.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
This is the only one we will walk.
This way, yeah?
Yeah, so it's gonna make turn and to keep it like that. Okay.
If you need something done, eventually, you just have to tell someone. Spreading the word sometimes requires a small group setting.
We really are doing a good job on doing our transition, you know. So throughout the day, keep doing that great job on establishing access and egress ladders, crossovers, and bridges.
Anybody else got anything today? Here's your chance, guys. If you got a beef, you got a problem, this is where you do it.
All right, everyone bring it in. Glenn, you want to come on down so everyone can hear what we got going on? Pushing, pulling, lifting, bending, twisting. That's what we do every day. That's why we stretch and bend. Slips, trips, falls, we covered, make sure we got a clear pathway. Tasks change from day to day. So everyone needs to know where they're going. Everyone needs to know the hazards of the job. There's a lot of things we need to cover on a daily basis to make sure everyone gets what they need to get done safely. Everyone gets signed in, Moises and Reagan stick around.
Other times, the entire company needs to hear the latest news.
All right, guys, come on in if you can. Get as close as you can in here.
Good morning. So, a couple things for today. The 1300 crane, we're going to keep putting that thing together. Be aware of the extra traffic over there in that corner. Let's go around it and make sure we're doing the right thing there. All right, let's stretch.
Or be led through the bend and stretch. The construction industry has incorporated this practice to increase productivity and reduce work injuries.
The work that we do out here is certainly a dangerous environment, so we're absolutely committed to making sure that every one of these men and women that are out here go home every day looking just the way that they do as they come through that fence.
Then, there are times when information needs to be shared on a much larger platform.
Mr. Webb, Mr. Boudin, Ms. Ventrelli, welcome.
First, I wanted to thank you for your relentless attention to this topic and also to the other members of the commission. If Dan and I were not here today, we would be at our existing stadium for something called the Security and Production Meeting. And I bring that up because one of the items we talk about at every single game is parking.
The current plan exceeds the projected demand. It compares very favorably to other urban located NFL stadiums.
An awful lot of my time is spent preparing for and communicating with government because an awful lot of my life and this project's life is involved with the government. We want them to know what's going on in the project, and even sometimes things that we don't tout publicly, we want them to be proud of some of the accomplishments. But at the end of the day, we're really about results. We have to get this built. We have a schedule to maintain. We have a quality to ensure. We have a budget to uphold.
And no project in this modern world would be complete without everyone's favorite form of communication, the meeting.
You guys want to know how many meetings we do every week? Every day. This project at 6 o'clock in the morning does a plan of the day meeting. Every week, we do an OAC meeting. That stands for owner, architect, contractor. How long will Dean Martin have traffic cones on it?
We're hoping to finish that work Saturday.
Okay. We have a weekly owner's rep meeting where the owner's rep understands the vision that the owner is trying to carry out through this project.
I had a call with them. The RFP is too thin. I told them they really need to expand on their vision.
We do a weekly procurement meeting. Once a week, we do a sales meeting with suite sales, club seat sales. We have a call to discuss security. Every week there's an AHJ meeting, authorities having jurisdiction. That's where we sit and we talk about code, fire, police. Every week we do a parking and traffic meeting. Every 2 weeks we do a design refinement meeting where the owner comes in, sits with us for 6 to 7 hours and talks about all the details. Monthly, there's a Stadium Authority Board meeting. Every month we do a community benefits meeting where we talk about how we're going out in the community and how we can get involved in doing good things for the community. And then once a month we sit with the RTC, they're the traffic people, and talk about infrastructure, where there might be road closures. And that's a wrap up for our regularly scheduled meetings. Really, our job from the ownership level is to clearly communicate the design intent from the architect, Manica, and the owner, Mark Davis. My job is to make sure that when we do communicate those details, we have the right people in the room at the right times such that they understand explicitly what it is we expect to be delivered in 2020.
Perhaps one of the most unique and innovative forms of communication on this project is the VDC system the team uses to collaborate on engineering and pass that information directly to the field.
You can think of BIM as the building representation in 3 dimensions, and virtual design and construction is the action or use of that information. So each week, our drone flies on the project, and for an hour's worth of time, we're able to get a plethora of data outputs that we can then deliver directly to our team. The Google Earth-like image then evolves and becomes the background of which our safety professionals develop emergency response planning or wayfinding and egress of moving around the project. It also allows us to do quantification based off that data and understand how much stockpile of dirt we have on project And we were able to confirm that against any other estimates that may have previously been put together on our project. So it's the right decision at the right time, made by the right person using the right tools. Virtual mock-ups for the project is a collaboration practice that allows us to further develop the 3D models from our typical construction modeling requirements. An example where we were able to get our owners in virtual reality and leverage these tools was when NFL came in and wanted to get vantage points of certain camera locations and provide guidance into how to best produce an NFL game in our facility.
It's the final Monday Night Football game in Oakland. It's the single most played matchup in Monday Night Football history as bitter rivals hook up. The Broncos visit Oakland.
You're up here, and the sideline is right here. So my play-by-play camera on the goal line, that robotic, is the cone on the goal line is blocked. So if the quarterback hands the ball off and a guy stretches for the pylon, you'll never see it from the goal line play-by-play camera. I'd like them to be the same level as the game cameras.
More and more, those goal line cameras are being thought of for remained up for Thursday night footballs, Monday night football. What levels is the broadcast booth on?
It's up at the very back of the upper deck. So it is a high press.
It's a high press box.
The system also has a VR component that allows communication of ideas with the multitude of business partners the stadium will engage.
Due to our great partnership with the Raiders and the ownership team, when they were participating in our virtual mock-up process and seeing our photorealistic VR environments, they tasked us with supporting their sales of some of the premium spaces. What we've been using this platform for the owners has been really looking at sightline studies and what will the fan experience from any given seat in the project.
The ability for us to show the concert promoters the building in both of those configurations, I think, is going to be key to helping steer them and to gain quicker decisions from these folks about the way they want to build up for an event.
It's instrumental as we're bidding on things against buildings that already exist. Without this tool, it would be so much more difficult.
So the Raiders really want this to be a facility that's used year-round beyond just simply hosting their NFL football games. And we've helped visualize different scenarios and work with their partners to enable them to show different configurations of concerts or corporate events. We ended up showing them what a soccer field would look like within the stadium for future hosting of FIFA events.
A perfect example of how comprehensive communication is helping the project can be seen in the exterior glass enclosure wall.
Here at the enclosed assembly plant, we have our teams assembling at the very top of our line. We're attaching the horizontals to the verticals. It then goes into prep, where we put on our gaskets, do all the primer for glass. If it's a panel unit, it's going to get insulated at that same position, and then it moves down into glazing. The teams install the glass and/or panels, and then it moves into the silicone pumps. Once we've had it structurally sealed, it's basically ready to come down into trimming, get cleaned, and go into bunking, ready to ship out to the field.
Comprised of 2,400 panel sets, each assembled off-site, every one of them unique.
We have curtain wall units upwards of 3,900 pounds, so it definitely has its challenges. But we have 3D modeling. We do everything by iPad. We have it very well organized, so the field team knows exactly what I'm building and exactly what I'm sending at all times.
Good communication ensures that the right panel assembly is on site exactly when it's needed.
Our enclosure trade partner has everything unitized, and so it comes out in stacks. And so one piece of glass wide by 4 tall makes up a stack, and it comes out to us pretty much ready to clip on, make sure the gaskets line up, and you move on to the next piece. We have to be really careful with how we install the glass to make sure that we're getting it to exactly the right pitch so that the next piece comes and lines up right on top perfectly.
However, the communication goes much deeper. Here, the design intent is communicating a message directly to the world.
MD gave us very, very good direction on how to develop the design. I don't normally work with really dark black glass, except in the desert. That's really what you want to keep the building cool. We made the decision one day to look at the building all in black. And once we saw it all in black, it was done. That's what we're gonna do. You know, it looked amazing, and MD loved it more than ever. And fortunately for the Raiders, works pretty well with their brand.
Obviously, the architecture reflects a life. You know, art mirrors reality sometimes. Reflecting that activity of the city, I think, is a really cool design feature.
When the project is completed, the black mirrored glass will reflect not just the lights of a sparkling city, but a reflection of the city itself. And the new direction Las Vegas is taking as the sports capital of the world.